Welcome back to 7 UIs with Replicant. Today we are tackling the temperature converter exercise. In this particular example, there will be two input fields. If you type in the Celsius one, it's going to automatically convert to Fahrenheit. If you type in the Fahrenheit one, it'll automatically convert to Celsius. So this will show us how to deal with user-provided input with Replicant and also how to do bi-directional data flow with pure functions. So this is the first task that has anything resembling a domain as described here. So what I like to do in that case is to start with a domain and maybe write some tests for these conversions so that we don't have to worry about getting the maths correct when we're doing the rendering stuff. I'll just copy this. And then because we're doing some domain stuff today, I wanted to write some tests. So I added a little bit of setup to our project. I added Kocha for the test runner. And I also added the Kocha no Yoda extension, which allows you to write some function call and then the number instead of the way that Yoda would express it. 2 is the result of fun. Then there's also this file called tests.eden that installs the plugin and just sets up the runner to run Klutter tests. All right. So I have this temperature test. Let's make a note of the rules here. So we can start with Fahrenheit to Celsius conversion. So we'll do Fahrenheit Celsius converts to Celsius. So I know a few of these conversions from cooking with American recipes. So I know that if I do temperature Fahrenheit Celsius, so if I have 32, that's 0 degrees Celsius. So we can start with that case. Something like that to create this one. And we'll add it up here as temperature, evaluate, and then we can do Fahrenheit. The formula up here says Fahrenheit minus 32, so just start there. And then boom, test is passing. Very good. We can add a few more tests here. Should be testing it is in here. Okay, next case is 122, which is halfway to boiling at 50 degrees. Which obviously doesn't pass right now. So we have to refine, we have to add this part. So we're gonna have a multiplier around here, and then we're gonna have this fraction to multiply with. Then that passes, and then we'll just add one more for the sake of it and do the boiling point, which is 212 and 100 degrees. Cool. So now we can just flip these around for our Fahrenheit tests. Fahrenheit and okay, and then we have to create this function as well, which takes in the Celsius and does something smart with it. It's probably going to do something adding 32 to it somehow. So we'll go like that. And now the tests are not passing. We have to multiply by 9 over 5. So let's do that. All our tests are passing. So that's the conversions. This is basically the domain part. The next part is to render something that looks like this. So here's our app. I'll put it to the side and then we'll have Emacs to the side, and then we should be able to see the live reloads, and we'll get into temperature here and we'll do render UI, take in the state div, and then temperature conversions, something like that. And then head over to core, add the temperature, and then we already have the temperatures here, so we just need to have a case for it. Temperature render UI state. So here's the counter from last time. And here are the temperatures. We're going to put this stuff, let's have a flex, gap, some gaps, and items center. And then we'll put an input field. I think there's an input class in Daisy UI. Type will be number. And then we'll have a label afterwards. So that says Celsius. And now we can also have ID Celsius, because then we can do in here, we can say for Celsius. That gets us one input, and then we'll have another one of these Fahrenheit. And then we'll wrap another div flex around here with a larger gap. Cool, that's our UI, more or less. We get these ugly number buttons that we don't really want, so we can remove them using some CSS. Okay, so we do, for any type number input field, there's something called WebKit inner spin button and also an outer spin button. And for those buttons, we want no appearance and also no margin. And now the buttons are gone. We could, if we wanted to, make the size of these inputs a little bit smaller, like width 12. So that probably should fit 100 inside, and it does barely. So just let's make it a little bit wider. So we'll use width like so. There we go. So now, how do we handle the conversions? You have to get the user input first, and then when I type here, we should calculate this value and the other way around. So let's start by making it one way and not dependent on user input. Imagine that the Fahrenheit field here gets its value from the state, so it should be like Fahrenheit state, like so. How can we set this? Well, we have this action that we've made previously. So I could do on input, and I can say action is sold in Fahrenheit, and then like 122, for instance. So now, whenever I type in this field, should happen something over here. So cool, that's something. But you know, this value should be calculated. It should be dependent on this value. So how can we get a hold of this value? Well, what I really want to do is like, what can I type here that will get me the value? I don't know the value at the point when I'm making this piece of data here. So what can we do here? Well, what if we could use a placeholder? Let's say that we could use like a keyword where I could describe, let's say event target value as number, and then somehow have this automatically replaced with the actual value as number. Remember our little framework here? We have perform actions, process effects. So actions are data, right? And in this object here that we didn't discuss yet, we have access to the event as well. So in here, you will find the DOM event. Let's just have a look at that one. I'll open the DevTools here. So when I type here, you can see that you have an input event. So what we can do is that we can extract the data here, and before we perform them, we can do interpolate. And then we can pass in the DOM event, so we can interpolate stuff from the event into the actions. A bit of pre-processing. So let's make that function. I'll just call it event, and these are actions in this case, or actually it's just data. To interpolate these, I would like to loop over it and find these placeholders in any position. So I don't know where exactly this will show up. And to solve that problem, we can use walk. Post walk will walk through the entire data structure for us. and just pass every bit of it into this function. And now I can case on it and say that if it's this value, then I want to replace it with something. Otherwise, I'll just use the original value. And the thing I want to replace it with is some event target value as number. Bring it down here like that. Now with this change, if I save this file and okay, closure walk as walk. My auto-refers are not working today. If I save this now, it's going to set the Fahrenheit field to whatever I type in the Celsius field. Let's try it. There we go. It's mirroring it. That's pretty cool. It's just one way, but it is respecting the user input. I obviously can't put the temperature conversions around this one. And you probably don't want to perform the calculations on every render. Although you could, that would not be a problem, but you'll see that this looks kind of weird. Even though it would work, I'd say that this is a weird solution because it says Fahrenheit here, and then you have to convert it. What we can do instead is to make a custom action that we can use here. We'll create a perform action here that receives the state and then action. Oh, sorry. And then action and arguments. And then we'll do case okay. And then the question becomes, what kind of action do we want? Well, let's turn to our tests again. So I'll just go here. So we need an action to use whenever the user types in a temperature. So let's call it set temperature. And then we'll say sets temperature and calculates Fahrenheit. Basically, what I want is that if I type in set temperature and I pass in Celsius like so, 50 degrees, then I would expect it to return effect assoc in Celsius 50 and also Fahrenheit 122. Because this is the action that we can use from the input field. So if we had something like this, we would be pretty good. Def test. Okay. It's not working because this function doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and create it. It's going to take in a map of Celsius and Fahrenheit. So basically, it's just going to create this little tuple. It says Celsius here, and then it says Fahrenheit to Celsius. Oh, actually, it's the other way around from the Celsius value here. So now the test is passing, but it also needs to perform the calculation the other way around. So if we go like this and we go like this, and I do 212, it should set the Celsius to 100 and the Fahrenheit to 212. And that doesn't work because we didn't solve that yet. What we need to do here is either we have the Celsius value or we need to go from Fahrenheit to Celsius. And similarly down here, either we already have the Fahrenheit or we need to go from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And then tests are passing. So now we have this useful function that we can use. We probably want to move this perform action down here then. And then we can do when equals set temperature action. Then we want to do set temperature first args. We're not going to use state, and that's it. So up here, we're not going to use this action. We're actually going to use set temperature. And then here it's going to say, this is the Celsius value you're typing in now, and its value is this placeholder. This is our action now. In order for this to work, we're going to have to wire up this one. So we'll go into core in our action dispatch, which is here. It says or counter perform action or temperature, perform action, state action. And let's have a look at what's happening over here. It seems to be working. 50, 122. Now, to make sure that it's actually working, we can add the same thing to the other field as well. Down here. And then we'll say set temperature. And this time we're setting the Fahrenheit. And then we also want to set the value on this field so they can control each other. Save that. And then we go here, up, up, up. And then I go here and do 122. And it's working. And this is it. This is bidirectional and user input. Pretty much all of it is pure code. Like all of this is pure code. We have tests for it. The only impure stuff we did today was to add this little interpolation, but this also is kind of pure. I say kinda because the event isn't pure, but you get the gist. So that's really it, you know. This is a temperature conversion exercise from the 7 UIs in lovely, pure Clojure functions. So let's go ahead and commit this. We'll ignore that one. Implement the temperature conversions. And that's it for this episode. I hope you join me for the next one as well, where we'll be looking at flight booking. So long.